Hey folks, walk with me. Well, a question slash comment came in. It was basically, I think it seemed as though this was a relatively young person, like young working age person, and they were pretty disheartened is not strong enough of a word, but I don't know if they were like full-fledged despair, maybe somewhere in between. But they were basically like, I read things about like the wealthy building bunkers to like save themselves in case of worst case scenario, and it just seems like our leaders are right now just trying to constantly instill fear in everyone. And they didn't say this, but I will say it. The feeling that I got was it pisses this person off and breaks their heart at the same time, because they feel like they were sold a storyline, which is true, of here's the 10 correct things to do, and you can, have a reasonably secure life here in America, and you can afford your essentials and some things beyond your essentials, and you'll live a good life. Just do these things. And they're basically saying, like, it feels like the playbook is just a big lie. And it just is making me feel atrocious, right? It's just everything is feeling bad. Because I feel like I followed this script that I was given, and all I'm getting back is seemingly a march toward, like, be afraid of everything and your future is gonna suck, right? And this person was like, I shouldn't have to have a future that sucks. I'm doing all these things that I was told to do. And they were basically like, what do I do with this? It's just making every day awful. It's a tough one, and you should feel the way you're feeling. I think it's very valid to feel all of those things. I think that, as I have preached many times in this playlist, I think you need to sit and welcome in those feelings of being cheated, of you've been sold this like bill of goods that's just a box of junk, and I think you need to get like very well acquainted with it. And there's certainly, you talked about a lot of factors in it already, but it'd be interesting to see, those were largely outside factors, right? The outside world gives you the script to follow. You then follow them. So you then expect the outside world to provide the things that they promised, right? You're basically looking for an equation or a quid pro quo. Outside world says, you do this, I'll give you that. And that has been dismantled. But I would sit with the feelings of why you are sort of tied to or connected to this idea that if you followed the script, that there is then some equation where you get something prescribed back. And find ways to, it feels dismissive to say, like, get comfortable with the idea that the world is littered with curveballs. But I think it's true. And you have to find some steady, peaceful place in you. And you might really want to question the validity of buying into that script, that quid pro quo, that equation, whatever you want to call it. You might not question the validity of that, given now that you've seen how maybe it doesn't equate the way that you were promised. And if so, you being a relatively young person, but this goes for anybody, I think, regardless of age, you can stop. You can stop trying to look for boxes to check and a playbook to follow, and assuming that if you do that, you're going to get a particular thing in return. You can, in your, diving deep into yourself, doing as they call a U-turn, Y-O-U turn, you can try to figure out what would make you happy, even if the world is screaming that you should be in fear and that your future is gonna be awful because bad things are happening everywhere. And this is not like a bliss bypass kind of idea where it's like, no matter what happens, I can be happy. It's not that. It's that no matter what happens, you can internalize it as opposed to just externalize it. And you can then fully work through, integrate, develop alongside the feelings that you have about this sort of like being cheated, as you described it. But I do think it's well worth figuring out, well, if you didn't have a playbook, nobody promised you anything in exchange for something else, what is it that would feel good to you? I put out a video on this playlist not too long ago called something like How Life Cheats Children, or How We Cheat Children, or something like that. And then I put out a video the very next day, How We Cheat, or How Society Cheats Adults. And it was this same idea. It was your promise the whole way along, do this thing. Oh, why am I doing this thing? Oh, it's so that then you're qualified to do that thing. Okay, then why am I doing that thing? Oh, it's so that then you can do the next thing, right? And it's just this constant horse and carrot, donkey and carrot, whatever. Whatever animal that likes carrots, that you can dangle the stick in front of, and they never get a bite at the carrot, but they just constantly trot along after it, year after year, decade after decade. And then by the time that they realize it's all been kind of someone else's plan, it's too late. Or they may feel it's too late, or they may feel very discouraged, so on and so forth. But you might want to check out those videos as well, if you've continued to watch this far and are still with me. But yeah, that would be my 2 cents. But it's, I know, I'm sure it feels awful. And it's okay that it feels awful, in the sense that, like, I don't think you should try to, chase that away. I think you should invite it in, get really comfortable with it, and learn from it what you can, and sort of make adjustments that will suit you better. All right, folks. Well, if you watched with me or walked along this far, I certainly appreciate it. And as always, I will see you in the next video.